Hello guys, today it's a different type of show. Normally I come here to answer your questions about launching, but today we risked forward in trying something new. New in terms of language, because most of you have never seen me speaking English, I hope, and risking because I'm trying to bring you guys here a new content, an interview with someone really special, which have a really interesting idea, which I believe that can help some of you guys, or if not most of you guys. And this person is Victoria Labalme. Hello, Victoria. How are you?
Hello, Erico. Hello, everyone.
Awesome. Where are you speaking from? Where are you based right now?
I am based in New York City,
New.
broadcasting live.
Okay, and for people who doesn't know who should be Victoria Labalme, the thing is, I happen to know Victoria Labalme for years, maybe more than 6 7 years, because we belong to a group, a mastermind group from Jeff Walker, which gets a lot of interesting people there, a lot of people that done some really interesting things, and Victoria Labalme happens to be one of those. Right when I joined the group, I did an interview with her, and at the time, the theme that we were speaking about was public speaking. I mean, a mixture of public speaking, spreading your ideas, the way to express your ideas on a stage, virtual, or I mean, when we had real stages in those times, right, when we could speak in public. But recently, I happen to know that Victorian is spreading a different idea. Wow, she was not speaking about well, she probably is, but in this new idea, it was not really about public speaking. In fact, it was not really about spreading ideas or the way to expressing ideas. It was about a strange word, which, as English as a second language, she was spreading an idea about risking forward. And the first time I read, what is risking forward? Because English is not my first language, probably not the first language of most of people that's listening to us. Risking forward. What is risking forward? So the first question that I have to ask you is, now I know what's risking forward, but if you get a native, like someone that has English as a first language, and
Yes.
you ask him 100 of them, would be obvious what is risking forward to them?
It would not be obvious, and I'm so glad you asked that question because it's a term I have coined. I have trademarked this term. It's putting together these two words, risk and forward. And for each of us, there are times in our life when we're unclear. We don't know the next step exactly. And risking forward is about moving forward, even if we're a little scared.
Okay, moving forward, leaving a little scared. So, who is risking forward to? Because it is for everyone. So, who was the idea, the theme of this that happened to become a book to?
Yes.
And who is for someone, and who is it not to? I mean, who is it for?
Who
Who
is the
is
audience?
who is the audience, and who is not the audience for this idea?
Yes.
In
The audience for this idea is anyone who finds themselves in a time of transition. When you are between projects or on a project in the middle of confusion. So it could be that you're trying to figure out your first PLC video, your launch video, and you're feeling overwhelmed. It could be that you are figuring out what exactly your topic's going to be. It could be that you're in a transition in your career or your health or your relationships. It could be for a young student who's just out of university and is not sure what's next. It's any period, whether for just a few minutes or for a longer period of time, where you're what I call in the fog. You don't know, and you're a little scared.
Okay, and what is risk forward? If this is is a term that you coined, what is it? What is it? What does it mean?
Yes, years ago, I studied with a famous French mime. His name was Marcel Marceau. And this type of movement, mime, in Portuguese, what is the word for mime?
Mímica.
Mimica. Mimica. Marcel Marceau, mimica. And he would say, risque avant, risque avant. And it was the French risk, avant in French, in advance. And I came to think of that because the movement, the physical position of risque, avant, was to be open, your heart open, even if you were a little off balance and you were moving forward. And I think that's how we can move through our lives and our launches, how we can move forward heart open, even if we're a little off balance.
Okay, so what is the if we have to risk forward? It's like moving, even if we are not completely secure. We are in a transition, and I can find myself the first time that I saw your TED Talk and started embracing this idea. I said, "Oh, this is not for me." I said, "I mean, I know where I want to go. I'm really sure about the track." Right, so it's kind of I'm one of those guys which are really decisive, but at the same time, I had an issue happening in one of my projects, which there was no right or wrong, which was a period of how do you say, transition? Yes, a period of transition. So at that time, I found myself doubting. I saw the fog. Well, should I do this or should I do that? It's the way I was happened to guide one of my masterminds, for example, right? So we've been in a place where we were using certain medium, right? Like a way of talking. And I had the feeling that we should change. Oh, look at that. And it's something that was kind of working. So at this point of time, I had a fog. Well, it's kind of working. It's not too bad. It's what everyone else is probably doing, but I had this feeling that we should change, and I felt so. Although I felt this fog, the fog. So once you feel that you are in the period of transition, and if there's something that you don't know in forward and you have to risk it, what are the steps to do it probably in a way that would work for you? I would not say a safe way, because I'm not sure if there is safety there.
Right.
But what, in a very nutshell, would be the first step once you say, okay, I'm in a transition? Might be from a career, might be my POC, might be in the strategy.
Right.
And there is some risk on this transition.
That's right.
So what is the framework that you recommend someone to follow?
Yes. So I wrote this book, Risk Forward, and we have seven phases in the book. And the first phase is that you want to embrace the fog, because, and I did it like this. This is what it looks like. The circle.
It's very risky. It's not like a book which you usually see, right?
Right. Yeah. The whole book is very colorful and creative. And the first step is to embrace the fog. Here's the thing. If you were in a field, and you can translate this into Portuguese, if you were in a field and you had fog, the first thing you wouldn't do is run, because you'd hit a tree.
I'm going to take notes if you don't mind. Okay?
Yes.
So because
do you want to translate for everyone?
No, I'm good. I think I'm good.
So
if you
clear.
Don't want to run.
You don't want to run because you hit a tree. So the first thing, step one, is you embrace the fog. You say, all right, I'm in the fog, because as a leader, a lot of entrepreneurs are taught, oh, if I want to be an important leader, I must be decisive. But decisiveness is only good if you have enough information, or if you have enough clarity. If you make a decision before you're ready just to look clear, you can spend a lot of time, energy, resources, team effort going down the wrong path. I've seen a lot of business leaders do that. They want to look decisive, so they say, okay, let's do this. But that one yes could be months of effort. You could be building web pages or spending all this money on technology or team, but it's the wrong decision.
How do we embrace the fog?
So the first thing is, you just recognize you're in the fog, and you say it's okay. You say, I'm in the fog, instead of trying to hide it. You say, all right, I'm in the fog. I'm in a period of not knowing. That's step one. Step two is you begin from within. Instead of looking outside yourself, which is what a lot of business leaders do, they go, what's everyone else doing? And this is where we lose our hidden genius, because we start to mimic everyone, right? Instead of what I say, begin from within. So the first thing is to say, what interests you? How could you do it, whatever the it is, in a way that would be creative, fun, different, serving the people, but not how's everyone else doing it, but what would be right for you, for your business, for your style, for your creativity. And that's where you start to distinguish yourself from everyone else. So you begin from within. And I have 4 questions that I ask in the book. The first question I will tell you here, and the others are in the book, is what interests me now? What interests me now? Because if, Erico, you think about your business and the shifts that you've made, where you say, I know, I want to do a big live event. I know, I want to host a virtual, whatever those choices you made in your business, they came from within. You learning how to be on the foil on the ocean with your children. That was what interests me now. I want to learn how to meditate. You started to meditate. I want to learn how to be in a cold ice bath. Those were your original thoughts. You didn't do it because everyone else was doing it. You did it because it was right for you. And that starts to separate you. And it's your original path. So you start with yourself. What interests me? And the problem in so many entrepreneurs, as I said, is everyone looks around and they start to sound like everyone else. So their videos, their photos, their website just are a replication of other people's.
So
break
the fog, start within yourself.
Yes.
Why are you? I'm just putting
what
myself.
What interests me now?
And then wow. So embracing the fog, it's okay to not know.
It's okay to not know. I say in the book, it's okay not to know. It's okay not to know. Yeah, you don't want to stay in not knowing for a long time. But I say at the beginning, right, at that edge of not knowing when you're facing something new is the beginning of the extraordinary. Mm-hmm. If we all stayed with what we knew, we'd be repeating ourselves. But it's that edge of not knowing that we're taught to be afraid of, where things begin that are new. And so whether it's new technology that you're setting up because you're learning about virtual presentations, or whether it's a new phase of your business and you're growing, that edge of not knowing is the beginning of your next phase.
And then you look into yourself.
Right.
Say, so what is me on this?
What interests me now? What lights me up? And then also what yeah.
And then?
Then you head into the unknown. And then you start going, all right, I don't know exactly where this is going to lead. In your case, I'm not sure where foils and, being on the ocean every day, I don't know where that's going to lead exactly, but I have to trust it. So when I went to study mime with the great French mime, I didn't know where it would take me. I didn't know I would use it to teach people in finance or to teach entrepreneurs how to be present on stage. I followed it not knowing where exactly it would lead. In my risk forward group, I had a student come in and he said, I have this idea. I'm not sure where it's going to lead. I'm going to head into the unknown with it. It's this idea. It was a tiny little idea he had, but he followed it. He trusted it. And he presented it to our small group of 12 entrepreneurs. And it was just a tiny little germ, little seed, but it grew into a very big business, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh my gosh.
From one little idea. But it was so different. And what happens is when we have those ideas, we dismiss them. So those little tiny, I call them the wisp or little seed. You want to pay attention to that.
How would you deal with it? And okay, there's the good ideas, let's say the good case studies when it works.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I had this really idea, this hunch, classic Steve Jobs, which went to a calligraphy course.
Right, exactly.
Not knowing that he would invent good calligraphy on computers.
Yes.
And now we all have good calligraphy. So it's like, but there is this also, I suppose he or you or me have this several ideas that we risked forward and
yes.
It didn't work. So how would you, when you head into the unknown, what are the tips?
Yes.
So you keep it into the unknown. Or when do you know? Oh my gosh! When do you know it is time to abort?
Right,
How
right.
is there
Yeah.
any tool that would give you a lot of students? They want me the magic. Erico, I have this niche. Will it work?
Yes.
And I look at them and say, well, if I were God, maybe his son, I maybe would know.
Yeah.
It's like a joke. I do it on a
Yes.
joke, not in a religious way.
Right.
But yeah, when you're heading to the no, there's no certainty.
There's no certainty.
Unless, and how do you deal with no certainty?
Yes.
And
Yes.
how do you deal, and how do you know when it's time to say, maybe I should head into another no?
Right.
What is...
Well, yes, that's a great question. There are three things that will happen when you risk forward. Number one, it's one of three. Number one, it will work out. You say, oh, that leads to something else, that leads to something, not always right away, but it does work out. And you know that because it keeps developing. You feel like there's momentum there. Number two, it doesn't work out. But you see the next step. You say, like classic Edison, who came up with all these ideas, the light bulb finally worked after many, 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 many tries because each one taught him what it wasn't. So you at least figure, okay, that's not it. Or in the process of it, you say, that's not it, but I see what it is. So as I show in the book, sometimes it's not until you step forward that you can see around the corner, but you couldn't have seen around the corner if you hadn't stepped forward. So you then see the right path, right? And the third is, regardless of one of those two, whether it works or it doesn't, you will never regret that you tried. Because the number one regret of people dying, and this has been all these studies done, is that they didn't take more risks. The number one regret of people dying is that they didn't try something or do something that they wanted to do, that they were too afraid, that they lived on other people's terms. So we don't want to die that way. No. And for each of us, there's so many things we've each done. Everyone watching can think of an example where they tried something that didn't work out, but they're so glad it's off the list. Maybe they tried another city. I tried a relationship. They tried a certain type of career. Like for me, I tried stand-up comedy. I thought, oh, I'm a performer. I'm funny. Maybe this is my path. And I spent a year doing stand-up comedy. I got picked up by the manager for Robin Williams and Billy Crystal, and he helped me out. But it wasn't the right career for me. But I'm so glad I tried it because I would always wonder. And most people never try. So what we want to do is just say, give it a shot. We start a business. It's not the right thing for us, a particular niche, but we've given it a shot and we know.
Awesome. And when you're trying and it's not working, but something tells you it may work.
Yes.
So what is the answer? So you're trying and it's not working, but I still believe it works. For example, it could be you're trying a launch. It's really your calling. It's not working, but you've seen something. I mean, it must.
Yes.
How is there any tool, or are you given your book to make sure you keep going, even though you believe it's going to work, but it's not working?
Yes. So there are a number of tools I talk about in the book. One would be to try new angles, which, by the way, is the next step in the book. So, right. We try new angles. We try it from another angle. It's not working this way. We try it from another way. So right here, it's try new angles.
Awesome.
And
so
that
what
could
do you mean by trying new angles?
Well, for example, one of the themes in the book, I say, and you can translate this into Portuguese, if you can't fix it, feature it. So if you can't fix it, feature it. So let's say one of your challenges is you can't decide between two types of passions that you have. Well, maybe what you do is you bring them together. You say, I'm going to create a whole new way of doing something by bringing these together. If you have, Ryan Levesque is a good example, right? This is something else I call the Prism Effect, where we have the concept of all the colors of a prism. We bring our different ideas together. So Ryan Levesque, some of you know, he created the Ask Method formula, right? Yeah. And his whole brand is around business and marketing. But he also happens to love Lego. And I said to him, how could you, I was encouraging him to take more risks, creative risks forward. And I said, how can you take your love of Lego and bring it into your business of online marketing? And he said, oh, I don't know. I don't want to do that. I won't be taken seriously. And I said, no, look for the connections. So he trusted me. He risked forward and he started to use Lego in his business. So it became a prop, a gift for clients. It became a stage set. It became an analogy in his business. So he took these two seemingly disparate, separate ideas and he put them together.
If you can fix it, feature it.
Yes, and that's I'm sharing two strategies at once. One of them is the Prism Effect. That's what Ryan did, where he takes colors. Like one of his colors in the prism, in the spectrum of colors, is marketing. Another is his love of Lego. So he puts them together. That's taking the colors. The other one is if you can't fix it, feature it. So let's just say right now in our live together, you had your camera not work. Now you could have tried to pretend it wasn't happening. You could have just tried and you would have been a little distracted. Your eye would have been going off to the side. Like, how do I cover for it? But instead you featured it. You said, Victoria, we're live. My camera's not working. And you bring it out. So sometimes it's something technical small. Let's say you have a big crash, something falls in the background. Instead of trying to ignore it, you say, well, this just happened, and you use it to your advantage.
Interesting. I had once upon a time, I'm getting a little bit old, so I'm saying once upon a time, I was in a party and I spilled wine in my shirt. It wasn't like too much wine, but it was enough to annoy me. And my shirt wasn't white, but it was enough to be, I'm in a party and, feels like I'm a drunk guy that spilled wine in his shirt. That's the conversation I was having. I was getting annoyed by it. So one guy, I was in Denmark actually, and one guy said, Eric, I see that you're a little bit concerned about your shirt. He said to me, I think it was in New Year's or Christmas. We were spending New Year's or Christmas outside. And then he said, I'll give you a little tip. I said, oh, really? Interesting. First, as he told me that, I didn't have to pretend to hide to him. And first, we are having a conversation in Denmark, and I'm sorry about the stereotypes, but unless you're drunk, people are a little bit less conversational than in Brazil. And this is it. And then I said, I'm actually talking to someone. It's kind of, people are more reserved if you don't know them in the first place. I'm not sure how it's in New York. I think New York people are loud. Man, they are loud. That's their stereotype as well.
Yeah, right,
it's like thinking you're going 2 notches on the volume.
Yeah,
and you're not, by the way. But like the classic Brian Kurtz, it's kind of like that. Anyway, so I'm having a conversation because of my eye. That was the first thing. He said, I want you to go to these people that you probably don't know, and when you start a conversation, he'll say, hey, I spilled wine on my shirt. I'm so sorry, and that's it. So you don't have to hide it anymore. So it's on. And anyway, I did that and it was good. And I drank a little bit more wine, which makes it easier as well.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I started to understand that every time I was on stage and I have something going on, for example, I had to tie my shoes. And for most people in the audience, tying the shoes is not a problem. But sometimes for me, that one a perfect pitch.
Yes.
And so I say, hey guys, it's going to be crazy. I have to tie my shoes.
Right.
And I tie my shoes.
Yeah.
And I do these lives for a while. And sometimes I drink a lot of water because they say you should drink a lot of water. So I drink a lot of water. And I want to go to the toilet. And before, I would come up with excuses. And now I just say, guys, let me tell you something. One of those coaches told me to drink some water, and I did, and I have to go to the toilet. So entertain yourselves there. I'll come back in a minute. I'll leave the camera open. And that gives me so much freedom. So I can see if you can fix it, like my urge to go to the toilet. Fix it. That's my way of embracing.
Yeah. Well, no,
Interesting.
I love these examples because just, I didn't think we'd be talking about that specific topic here, the water in the toilet, but there's real value what you're saying here for everyone listening. That authenticity, for you to tie your shoe, that I probably would guess is one of the most interesting moments. Like, oh, he's human. It's normal. Like sometimes we think we have to be something other than we are, and it's that authenticity and taking who we really are. Sometimes people come to me for coaching and they say, oh, Victoria, I'm really animated and I'm excited and everyone's telling me it's too much. And I go, who's saying that? Like everyone is different. So it's about being who you are and not trying to be different. And after I presented in Brazil, in Sao Paulo at Formula de Lançamento. Yes. This was 3 years ago. And I came, and I can't tell you how many people, Erico, women and men, they came up to me after that presentation. They said, oh, I feel so much more free. I feel like I can be myself. I didn't know that I could bring this part of me and this part of me together. I didn't know it was okay to try it in a different way. And so what you want to do is take the formula that Erico teaches, right? Formula di Lançamento, and then make it your own in the sense of like, bring in your creativity, bring in your playfulness, bring in your physicality, bring in your art, whatever that is for you. It's what makes you different. And so it's that distinction that brings out, the subtitle of the book is Embrace the Unknown and Unlock Your Hidden Genius. And the reason for that is when we go where others have not gone before, that's where we start to discover new things, right? It's what Christopher Columbus did, right? It's what Steve Jobs did. It's what you're doing on so many levels, Erico. And so that's when we go into that unknown. We come from within. Like, what would be interesting to me? How do I try new angles? Right? And
interesting. And what is the sorry? I'm known to interrupt people. By the
that's
way,
okay. It's okay.
Gets even my audience annoyed. But anyway, I'm embracing that, and now I'm featuring it. That said, what about your inner voice? I sometimes have my spider sense. I call it the spider sense because I think Jeff calls his spider sense, and I think it speaks to many people that in my age look at the Spider-Man. How can you learn to listen to it, when to listen to it, and maybe when not to listen to it? Because the spider sense has two sides. The dark side and the good side of the force. And what is the opposite of the dark side? Is the right side, the light side? How do you say it?
It depends. If you're talking in Star Wars language, it's be the Jedi, right?
The Jedi. Okay. So some part of it is the dark side. I think the instincts is sometimes dark. Dark means don't go. Like the dark forces. Yeah. And sometimes there's the Jedi forces which say, oh, you shall risk forward. Yes. Something like that.
Right.
When do you learn, how do you learn to calibrate this? Because how would you say that? Do you have any ideas or tips to learn to listen to it in a good way?
Yes. Well, in the book, when I talk about the inner current, I list a set of words that you want to pay attention to. These are, you can see here. So these are words when you know you're on the inner current. And then I have a set of words when you know you're not. And the key is
so you pay attention. The inner current? I'm so sorry. What is the inner current?
Inner current is that river inside of you. So when you are risking forward in the right direction, you will feel curious, interested, compelled, a little excited. When you're going in the wrong direction, when you're off that current, that river, you have a sense of dread. You're disinterested. You're overwhelmed. Those are signs that you're not connected and you're not on course. And it doesn't mean that you're necessarily heading in the wrong direction. It means that something is off within because maybe you have too many people telling you something. You have too many voices in your head, or you're coming from the wrong place. The motivation isn't the right place. And so you're feeling Like, when I teach presentation skills, I say to people, if you're on the stage or on camera and you're thinking about yourself, like, am I fat? Am I too skinny? Do I sound smart? Do I know the words? You're thinking about yourself. When you're focused on your audience, when you're focused on communicating and really sharing what you have to share, all of those nerves, that anxiety goes away. So sometimes it's about where you shift your focus. So if, for example, you're to bring it to your audience, if you're thinking about your launch and you're thinking, oh, it's too much, I can't do it. It's maybe because too many voices, you're trying to do too much at once, you're forgetting who you're doing it for. But if you say, look, even if I can help 5 people or 5,000 or 5 million, whatever your audience size is, the focus is there. It's not about all those little other pieces. It's about really helping them. And when you get connected to that, then all those inner current voices will, you'll feel aligned.
Got it.
So, yeah, there's something else I love in here. I'm going to show it to you very quickly. It's something that I call mindset, which is what we're really talking about right now, Erico, right? Mindset.
Yeah.
So there are 2 clocks. We have what I call the clock of angst here.
Yeah.
And the clock of calm. And the clock of angst is, it's too late. I'm not good enough. I'm too far behind. It's not going to work. Those are all the things you were just saying. Those are the Spidey demon dark side. And then there's, it's okay. I'm on course. It'll work out. And you just,
it's going to be all right.
It's going to be all right.
All is well.
All is well. So it's just shifting those clocks in our head.
Yeah. In the moments of more angst that once I say all as well, when I was in London, I used to like hypnotists, not from a therapist point of view. I was interested in hypnotizing people. It's like at the time I was interested in that. I don't know how old I was, but I was young.
Right.
Younger. That's 10 or 15 years ago. And one of these, I start studying it, like people study on courses. I start, like experiencing it. And one of these guys that taught this sold me a tape, which I would listen in the night. And I don't know what he would say on the tape, but in the end of the tape, which was supposed to be making me a better person, a thinner person, or a stronger person, a confident person, these kind of tapes, like the cheesy ones. At the end of the tape, I didn't at that time I didn't become a more confident person that I know. I didn't become more successful professionally or anything like that I know of a difference. But there was one of the words at the end of the tape, which I listened to it probably 30 days or 50. I don't know. I go intense when
I know that.
Yeah, so when I start something, I just don't know how to stop. Anyway, and then at the end of the tape, he would say, all is well. All is well. Yeah. And first, it's not an English translatable, which in Portuguese would be, it's going to be alright. Tá tudo certo. Vai dar certo.
Yes.
Tem nada de errado. It's going to be alright. Erico, it's going to be alright.
Yeah.
And from all the tape, which in the moments of more, the Beatles said, what is the lyrics? When I find myself, let it be. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be.
Yeah, absolutely. And
so
I love that.
All is well. So interesting that in your book you have some sort of questions that you can ask yourself, questions of words, curiosity. That
you're on the right track.
You're in the right track. Coming from the book is when I was looking at it, I said it was different. I mean, design-wise, in terms, I didn't see an index in the way that we see indexes, which in my country, books are different. I mean, I don't know in your country, but in my country, books are different. The way you designed it, how did you came up with the idea of saying something, designing it aesthetically, or the experience of it in a different way? When did it actually came to be such a different book?
Yes.
I mean, the idea of making it such a different experience.
Yeah. Well, I love that question. And in the United States, where I'm based, the books are also like they are in Brazil. You know, there's an
Oh,
index. It's mostly black text on a white page. Um, because I'm very visual as a person, you know, I like pictures, I like images, because I find that you learn best in different mediums. I've been speaking on stage for years, and my background is the arts. So I was a performing artist. I made films. I did theater. And in the performing arts, we take the. Oh, I'm hearing a scream, a
yeah,
little
I have a
pitch.
son.
Oh, that's your son. That was him.
So, yeah, he's 3 years old and he doesn't take that much direction. But
That's very sweet.
people, let's feature it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
he's expressing himself. I love that.
Yeah, if you can fix
Yeah.
him, let's feature him.
Absolutely. Which just as a little side note is great because like we learn about the sun and you know these are fun little parts of you and it just makes you human and of course your audience knows you have these beautiful children, but it's a nice thing. So and in any event, I decided because of my background is in theater and in film, I said how do I take the reader on a journey the way we take an audience on a journey. You know, in a movie, we think, what is the experience? We want to keep surprising the audience. And the same thing when I teach presentation skills. I say every slide, every time you put up a slide on the screen, it should surprise the eye. So every slide, now it's a question mark. Now it's a statistic. Now it's a graph. Now it's a photo. Now it's a word. Now it's a quotation. Now it's a list. Now it's some bullets. So the audience gets trained to know not what's coming next. They know that not knowing what's coming next, going back to not knowing, is exciting. The book is the same. Every page is different. You turn the page, and you saw this, Erico, like what's on the next page? You know, it's sometimes it's words. Sometimes it's pictures. Sometimes it's a diagram. And so I wanted the audience to always be curious, to not know what was coming next, and to take them on a journey. And the way I wrote the book, too, is you can read it in any order because a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people, we skip around. We don't always go in, you know, we like to kind of be independent. And so I wrote the book so you can read it from front to back, but also so that you can skip around and not feel bad because we have enough pressure in our lives. People feel like they're falling short. They feel like they don't know what they're doing. They feel like they're not keeping up. And I said, how can I make a book that gives people a sense of permission to do things creatively, to not feel bad about themselves, to feel free? And so the book had to follow the philosophy. If I said, okay, you can't turn the page until you do these 3 exercises, people would feel bad. This gives them ultimate freedom. They can do it. They don't have to. And because of that, people are getting more out of it than they would have otherwise.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I hope some people could get a sense of what is risking forward. Why should you risk forward? Maybe when should you risk forward? And some of them might be interested in having the whole experience of risking, of learning this, because as much as we can talk about it here, it will never be like experiencing the book, experiencing the idea. And
Yeah.
I mean, in a book, you have way more detail. We usually say that the book is even always better than the film. Not sure if it
Yeah.
is in the United States, but people in
Right.
Brazil usually say, "Oh, did you saw the film? Oh my gosh, I saw it. I was so upset because I read the book."
Yes.
And so books are amazing for that. And for people who want to, we're gonna link below whatever this presentation, talk, recording, it's gonna be in. And we have a URL to actually purchase the book. I think it's purchasable right now. Am I right?
It's
People
a
can
risk
buy it.
forward. Yes, you can buy it. It's on pre-order right now, depending on when you
Awesome.
watch this video. So, yeah. But we have bonuses, and as you know, Erico, I have 2 parts to my business. One is rock the room, which is how do you rock it on stage, on camera. So that's rock the room, and the other is risk forward. And when people buy risk forward now, we have other elements from rock the room that you get free.
Wow. And of course, we're going to put the URL, below all the means. But for the people who actually like to just listen to it and purchase the book, the URL, I have it here, is www.riskforward.com/book for the book itself and for bonuses that comes with the book. And coming to an end, coming to interview you, it's a big risk forward for me.
Yes.
I have an audience, and guys, I know that English is not a first language for most of you, and it is a big risk. It is a big risk to bring someone here, but I took this risk to actually do it in live and do it in English because I know Victoria for long enough to understand how capable she is to making a difference through knowledge. When she spoke at PLF Live Brazil, Fórmula de Lançamento ao Vivo Brazil, I still have people talking to me about all the things she's learned. In fact, yesterday I was applying the one thing she taught me, one of the various things she taught me, which was the post-it
Yes.
walls and the V cards and
The V
stuff
cards.
like that. Yeah. So years after learning from like breakthrough ideas, my business still profits from them. So I wanted to make sure I could share a little bit of that with you guys, and that's why we are here. And Victoria, thank you very, 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 very much for your time. And I know we are in a different time zone with a different tech. You probably have not experienced such a tech, and I thank you for your patience to be here with
Yes.
us.
Well, I'm so pleased and grateful to you for your taking that risk forward. And I guarantee you, what comes out of this, not just our time together for your audience, but for you, for other guests you might bring forward, what we just did, opens a whole new door for you. So, as I say in the book, at the edge of not knowing is the beginning of the extraordinary. So, cheers to you, Erico, for taking that risk.
Awesome. Thank you. And guys, see you tomorrow at the same time in our 747 show. And see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.